All right, welcome to episode 10 of the HYPEothetically Speaking podcast. I am rejoined by Sam Moldenhauer and Logan Bell, pretty much some regulars on our show at this point, and they talk about every sport there is, and they are definitely baseball experts, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Thank goodness they're here because I would not be able to do this alone. But first off, fellas, how are y'all doing?
Doing pretty good.
Doing good. Happy to be here.
Man, I love to hear that. Well, our last MLB episode was about 2 weeks ago, and we talked about a few different things. But we're just going to kind of recap what happened since then. That episode was before the MLB draft and before the All-Star game, All-Star weekend. So we'll talk about some home run derby picks that y'all made last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago, and how that ended up happening. Sam, if you want, I can ask Logan how he feels about calling Pete Alonso the lock among locks. But if you want to start with the first round upset that probably ended your night early.
Yeah.
I'll just say the BP throughout the whole home run derby was absolute garbage. Like BP should not be that bad. I can throw better BP than a lot of the guys that were out there. And if anybody knows, like home run derby, like yes, you obviously have to be strong, powerful, all that, but another big part of it is the BP that you're getting. Like if it's consistently in the same spot, like relatively like within a couple of like centimeters or so, you're not having to change anything with your swing from going from swing to swing. Everything is consistent. You're just going through the motions, and that's how guys get in grooves and just hit like 5, 6, 7 in a row. We saw that from like Julio Rodriguez and some of the other guys. Like it was just so painful to watch. Like there were dudes like I think someone even like bounced it or something, or like
It was
it
bad.
was high. It was just all over the place. I was just like, this is absolute garbage to watch. And then, dude, don't even get Kyle Short. I can't even.
Man
Well,
lost to an
Can't even, dude.
85-year-old.
I can't even believe it.
maybe next season you'll be able to volunteer to throw for
No,
Kyle
this was
Schwarber.
this was our once like, dude, the Phillies are so bad, dude.
Hey,
So
they were
bad.
throwing Acuna curveballs. I don't know what they were
I'm
doing.
telling you, dude.
It was unreal.
It was so bad, dude.
It was unreal.
Well, Acuna did lose first round, but I think kind of expected that with Pete Alonso. But I don't think you expected him to lose second round, did you, Logan?
No, I wish we could have done like a live podcast because the second I saw that man meditating and deadlifting, I knew it was over. He took it way too serious. Like I said on the podcast before, like he's a Met, so that's all he has to play for, which is still true. And I think he thought that. That's why he took it so serious. But man, as soon as I saw those videos, he was. You can't be too locked in, but he just wasn't having fun. When he won last year, or last year, or the year before, he
He
was
won
like
two
head
years in a
bobbing.
row.
Yeah, definitely true. But which I can't remember which year it was. There was a video I remember seeing. He was like called his timeout or whatever, and he was like head bobbing up and down and like getting into the music and like kind of getting into the crowd, having a good time. And he came out that night just stone cold, and it was not good. It was not pretty.
Yeah.
He was
Well,
not. He was not having fun like he normally did the last 2 years. I don't know
And
what
I
was
will
up.
say, like, if anybody was watching it live, like I think I was watching on ESPN. God, they need new announcers. It was so bad, so bad. Like there was one dude that literally was just talking about the bats that everybody was using. I was like, I don't care, dude. Like, I don't care. Like he was talking about this bat is a 34-inch, 32 ounce. I'm like, I don't care. I have no interest in how long the bat is, how heavy it is. Like, I have no interest in that. The fact that you're even speaking of it and like you think that's interesting, like you're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to be on live TV and you're talking about bats. Stop it.
yeah, I've heard MLB announcers are significantly worse. I think the is it Joey Molinaro is the guy that imitates Colin Coward really well.
Um,
Yeah,
doesn't he
I
do a
think
lot of
he
imitations?
he
does a
does a
lot of
lot
them,
of
but he does
people.
Colin Coward like spot on. But he was doing like the difference between NBA announcers and MLB announcers. And NBA announcers, he's just going like, oh, like crossover left pass, drive, like whatever, like all that. And then he was just like casually like imitating the MLB announcer, just casually saying, "So now you're telling me when you make your peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, like you just use the same knife, like you don't even clean off the knife after sticking it in the peanut butter before sticking it in the jelly, and there's a curveball. It's now a 3-2 count. Like it's just like random conversations in the middle. That's hilarious to me, but
That's so true.
To be fair, like I mean, I agree with Sam. They're horrible. But baseball's kind of hard. Like you can have one pitch and 45 seconds of nothing, and you kind of have to make stuff up. But man, they can still be better. They were bad.
Yeah, and I think like
So
it's
bad.
like it's just gone on a decline. Like one of the greatest broadcasters to ever do it, Vince Scully. He literally did it for over like 20 years, just being the Dodgers broadcaster. He did it by himself, and the dude was so entertaining. Like you can do it solo and be good. Like, but
You can.
these dudes now are just like, I mean, they're talking about like
Not baseball.
they're talking about themselves. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care about you. Like talk about stuff that's going on in the game, or like stuff about the player that might be interesting, or like, you know, this and that. But I don't know. I think that could go into like a lot of different conversations about like how the sport as a whole is failing, is like a dying sport, just because like people don't really treat it as like entertainment. They treat it as like professionalism, and like we need to like treat this game like, you know, we are men. Like this can be a fun game, like, but you guys don't treat it like a fun game.
Yeah. No. My only broadcasting experience with baseball was calling for like 10U games up in Blue Ridge, Georgia for like a few games with the company I used to work for. And I could definitely see, I'm sure there probably wasn't a ton of time in between each pitch just because it's kids, they keep it rolling. But
Dude,
there was definitely downtime in between each pitch where we just had to talk about whatever. So I can see it.
one thing real quick on the home run derby, like I don't know how they track like which, like it seems like their counter is like always wrong. Like the announcers are like,
yeah.
oh,
it
that's
does.
that, and that'll be 19, but the track, like the number, like he only has like 16. I was like, is it a home run or is it not? Like, how do you get this wrong? Like, just watch the baseball. If it leaves, add one. I'm like, but you got the announcer saying like a totally different number than what the number on the screen says. I'm like, so did he win or did he not? Like, I'm like, how do you mess this up? Like, you are literally Major League Baseball. This is your event, and you are messing it up. Like, come on.
Yeah. No, hopefully it'll be better next year and in the future. But we can talk about also the MLB draft that happened. Probably won't get into too many picks. But I do want to. We'll talk about the top three. But
I was right.
You were. But before that, we got to make fun of Kaysen because he had Cam Collier going 1 and he went 18. So
he should have gone higher than 18, though.
That's I mean, true. Fair.
In his defense,
but I'm just saying.
He wasn't going number 1.
I just want to like. I mean, even before we did this podcast, Kaysen texted me like, "Hey, like just on the record, like Cam Collier's getting drafted number 1." I was like, "Okay." Like I don't know.
But you didn't even know who that was.
I had no idea. No, I was like, "Isn't this Drew Jones or something?" But number 1 pick, Jackson Holiday. Sam, I don't remember where you had him going in yours, but I know Logan said he was in his top 3. Where did you have him going, if you remember?
It was either like top 5 or top 7, something like that. Like,
okay,
he everybody knows like he's a good player, good prospect. He was in like everybody's top 10, top like 15 consensus boards, everything like that.
My consensus board top 3.
True. It was interesting though to like I hearing Kaysen's points from the prior episode of, you know, the Orioles' track record of maybe not wanting to spend the most amount of money, especially early on in the draft. It was kind of, and I mean, like, granted, like Kaysen's not in the front offices, like, so none of us know like what's going on. So it was just very interesting to see like they actually gave Jackson Holiday the most amount of money. Like they just like, yeah, you're getting the bag. Like we don't really care about the money. I mean, we'll just give you like the slot value. Was it slot value or was it over slot value? Logan?
I think it was slightly over.
Yeah. So it was just interesting to see.
Not by much, but slightly.
I think it says, if I'm reading this right, slightly under. The pick value is 885 and he got 819, which is the same as Drew Jones.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I mean, it was still interesting the fact that they would want to go like that much money. But I mean, like we talked about in the episode before, like the MLB draft is so unpredictable. Like
Yeah.
people evaluate everybody so differently. Like it's different from football and basketball where you can have evaluations and generally people come to the same kind of uh, consensus on players. But like baseball, like you could see from like swing to swing or pitch to pitch, anything, like people could see different things all the time and like, oh, I actually kind of like that. And then another person's like, I actually don't like that. Like I like what he did before. So it's kind of just, it's really whatever you're kind of feeling.
Yeah. All right. So Jackson Holiday, number 1 to my Orioles, but Drew Jones went number 2, best prospect in the draft. Logan, how are we feeling about them getting him with the second pick?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the value was obviously there. I thought he was going 1. I knew he was going top 3. I kind of had them maybe flipped. I knew Jackson Holiday was going to go kind of high, but I was surprised that he did not go number 1. I kind of thought it was a lock because he was by far the best prospect. But the more interesting thing is he's hurt now, and that sucks. He got hurt taking batting practice earlier in the week and out for the year, and they don't know when he's going to be able to play next year. I mean, he played 2. I think he played 2 games, and I can't remember. Sam, you may know. I can't remember exactly what he injured, but the report came out just yesterday or the day before that he's done for sounds like over a year, which that sucks.
Yeah, I don't know if it's over a year or if they're just shutting him down for the rest of the year because I don't know if people know, but like after somebody gets drafted, teams can then send them to like developmental kind of leagues, like short seasons and things like that, so that they're not just like, because the way the baseball season works in college is like they get drafted, so they play during like the spring, like early in the year, and then they get drafted, and then if they don't get relegated to some kind of league, then they kind of just work out on their own or like work out with the team. So teams would rather have them continue playing so that they can get more reps. So yeah, he was probably just doing that, and I haven't really looked into much of the injury. I'm not too concerned. Like the dude was just drafted. Like I'm not gonna freak out over like.
He's so young.
So I'm sure they're just shutting him down for the rest of the year because he was the second overall pick. They just gave him a lot of money, so no sense in rushing him back to anything. Like they've got nothing going on for him. Just plan for the future. So yeah, it doesn't really stress me out.
Yeah.
This thing says, I'm reading it now, this was like 2 hours ago, that he's gone all of his testing and he might need surgery, and that they're going to probably decide early next week if he needs surgery or not. And if he has the surgery, then they don't really know if he'll be ready for the start of next year.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, he's like 18 years old. He'll be all right.
I feel like
just it does suck though still.
People might hear surgery and be like, oh wow, it's kind of serious. Like, I mean, surgery is just like a faster way of healing things. So, and it could be a more efficient way of healing, parts of your body. So, just having surgery, like, it doesn't really make too much of a difference to me. If he gets back to play faster, then sure.
Yeah, just feel bad for him.
Yeah, for sure.
Guy just got a lot of millions and millions of dollars. So
also true.
To do a little bit of rehab and play a lot of video games. So, Logan, this is your time to shine. You mentioned him when we did this podcast. Kumar Rocker went probably as a major shock, number 3 overall to the Rangers. And you talked about him potentially going top 10. You got shot down. How does that feel to be right? Does it make you feel like you know more about baseball than Sam and Kasem?
It made me feel good because I know they probably thought I was crazy. I think they felt crazy when I just brought up first round. I was super confident dude was going top 10, top 12. 3 surprised me. He's so good. Like, he's so good. One of the announcers, I think I was watching on ESPN or whatever, he said he was his number 1 prospect. He said he would have taken number 1 overall.
Yeah, that was Harold Reynolds.
Yeah, which was probably more just
ESPN talk, ESPN clickbait during a live broadcast. We love to see it.
Yeah. Clickbait. But man, it felt good when they said his name at 3. I was like, I know Casey and Sam are just shook right now. I still thought 3 was a little high. I was hoping the Braves would maybe reach and take him at 20 if he fell, but I did not think he was going to be there. But it did make me feel good here, and I think it was Casey who said that someone might be able to get him towards the middle of the second round, and he went number 3. I felt good.
Yeah.
He was just dominant in college. I don't blame him. But also his agent is um, Scott Boras, who
Mhm.
was the agent of many players, and there's a lot of talk of, in case someone was kind of telling me this over the weekend, that
Yeah.
it was kind of planned in a way of forcing some of the other players down so the Rangers could get them later and give them more money because the MLB draft is just crazy with how it works. But yeah, I was pumped.
Yeah. It was I was definitely shocked because I mean, like we talked about in the previous episode, like there's a lot of risk with him. Like yes, he has a great fastball, can get it up there in the high 90s. He has a really good slider. That's probably a plus plus pitch at this point. It's just the question of the third pitch. Um, can he actually develop one? Can he make it a consistent plus offering to where now you have 3 pitches that you can go to, which will then get you a pretty solid spot in the majors. If he doesn't have those, then he could be a high leverage um, bullpen arm. Which, if you're taking that third overall, like I kind of question your decision making. But like
For
Logan
sure.
talked about, it was kind of from what I heard, like he talked about Scott Boras, his agent Scott Boras represents a lot of players in baseball. 2 of which, namely, are Corey Seager and Marcus Semien, who just signed big deals in this offseason with the Rangers, and Kumar Rocker is represented by Scott Boras. Another player named Brock Porter is represented by Scott Boras, who Brock Porter was drafted by the Rangers in the 4th round at 3.7 million, and in the 4th round, that slot value is actually like almost it's around like 550,000. So
And
that's
that player was like one of
yeah,
the
and
top ranked
yeah.
pitchers.
So the reason why he dropped so much was this is like obviously like per sources, like I can't really confirm anything, but this is it makes it makes sense to me, is that being represented by Scott Boras for both of these players, like probably talked with the Rangers saying, hey, if you draft Kumar Rocker at 3, because they also drafted Jack Leiter a year ago, who was teammates with Kumar Rocker at Vanderbilt in college. Take Kumar at 3, he'll sign for a lot less than slot value than the third overall pick. He signed for just over 5 million, slot value 7.5 million. And meanwhile, Scott Boras was telling all the other teams that Brock Porter, he was a high school arm. He was telling them, no, he's gonna like don't waste a pick on him because he either wants absurd amount of money or he's gonna go to college. So teams kind of just said, all right, like we'll just take somebody else who we don't have to do that with, like we don't have to play that game with. So he falls to the 4th round, 109th overall, signs for $3.7 million, slot value of like just over, like I said, just over 550,000. So I mean,
Smart move.
if that's all true, like
Genius.
business is business. Like everybody plays the game. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Like, but dang, dude, if that's not collusion, like I don't know what is. Like,
I
Yeah.
loved it though. I thought it was, I mean, business is business. Don't get played. You can also do your own research into the player. You don't have to listen to Scott. I loved it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's your recap from last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago. I keep saying last week's episode. We're going to get into some more recent news with some injuries. Miami's Max Meyer had Tommy John surgery. He was the number 3 pick in 2020. Sam, how does this news make you feel? Like, what does this impact?
it doesn't really impact too much. Like Kaysen had talked about in the prior episode, like Tommy John at this point for major leaguers not isn't really like any kind of setback or any kind of major concern because of the medical advancements that we've made up until this point, and how often guys get Tommy John. I mean, sometimes they get Tommy John just as like, I mean, literally like before you get Tommy John, because like literally like your arm is like so messed up, like so many like I'm not a doctor, but like so like your arm is just blown out, right? So you have to get Tommy John, and like you're pretty much done at that point. Tommy John, like several seasons ago, maybe like in the early 2000s, like a death sentence. Now we know a lot more about Tommy John surgery. We know how to rehab it better, how to just do the surgery better and everything to get them back to full health. So when a player gets Tommy John, it's really like, okay, like in my eyes, they're kind of just like, well, that sucks. They're just going to be out for the next 12 to 14 months, depending on how long the team wants to rehab him. But then like when they get back, they're typically like right back to where they were. So he's a really good prospect, 24 years old, nasty fastball slash sinker with some good movement. He throws a slider and he's working on a changeup. He kind of they obviously want to use him as a starter, but we'll just have to see how he develops his third pitch. If he's not a starter, then he's an extremely good bullpen arm. But yeah, the Tommy John doesn't really concern me. It just kind of sucks because he's probably gonna miss all of next year too. So
Yeah. Logan, anything to add in about Max Meyer and or Tommy John surgery?
Yeah, no, I mean I agree with Sam, and that doesn't really worry me anymore. That just sucks for him. Like, I mean, thankfully he's only 24, so he'll bounce back from it. But I don't think it has much of an impact. The Marlins stink. The Marlins are going to stink next year too, so it doesn't really affect the Marlins that much. I think eventually they're going to turn it around, but as far as like actual do what?
You can go ahead. I was gonna.
No, I mean, but as far as like they're not touching the playoffs this year. They're not touching the playoffs next year. Maybe they will after that. So really, as long as he's ready to go, and I guess that's 2024.
Yeah,
that's when it really matters.
They have a good farm system, though. They have a lot of good arms coming up.
They are on the come up.
Yuri Perez is one of them. He pitched in the Futures game.
They've got. I mean, they have a stud pitcher already in the big leagues, obviously, right now.
Yeah, Sandy Alcantara. Yeah, I mean, their arms are looking really nice. They have Pablo Lopez as well.
I guess I'm saying.
Whenever Sixto gets back to health, like
I guess what I'm saying is like, I mean, obviously you don't ever wish an injury on somebody, but it's better now than in 2024.
Sure.
Yeah, because they stink. But yeah, it's just, I mean, Tommy John sucks. Like Sam said, hopefully it can get to the. I mean, it doesn't concern me anymore, but as far as the surgery itself, I'm hoping it can get to the point where it's not 12 to 14 months anymore. Like ACL injuries seem to be getting faster and faster, and hopefully Tommy John can at some point.
Yeah. In what's probably going to be a very popular meme, or maybe not very popular, but it'll probably just be something funny people say on Twitter for like a day. Mike Trout was diagnosed with a back injury, a very rare back injury that there was a doctor saying it's probably going to be something he has to deal with for the rest of his career. He came out and said, like, like, thank you, but like my career is not over. Like I'm still going to be fine. Like I'm still going to play. But Logan has the years of carrying the team on his back finally affected Mike Trout?
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, I personally, I think if he could have stayed healthy and he wasn't on the freaking Angels, like he easily could have been like the best baseball player of all time. And some people still think he is. I mean, he's unreal. It's just he hasn't. I'm looking at it now. He hasn't played over 100 games since in like 2 or 3 years. I mean, I know the 2020 year wasn't ever going to be 100 games, but he's been banged up for a while. I mean, he's only Sam. You know how old he is?
He's 30.
Yeah, he's
30.
30. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, those days are probably over, but to be fair, like the Angels have never really been good. Like all I want, I could wish for one thing that was not the Braves to win the World Series this year. It is to be able to watch Mike Trout in the playoffs. Like that is all I want. But you don't ever. I mean, any back injury, whether he says he's going to keep playing and stuff like that, still is scary. But I mean, I think if you put a good team around him, he probably could carry it for another year or two. But I mean, there's another guy on that team, Ohtani, where I don't think Trout's even in the position where he has to anymore. If they did get a pretty competitive team around him, you don't have to carry that team anymore. But I just want to see him play. I just want to see him be healthy. I don't really care if he, isn't an all-star every single year anymore. Like I just want to see him consistently play, and I'm starting to think that's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, it's always funny to see the stat lines where it's like Mike Trout or Shohei Ohtani like broke a record, and then the other one batted like 3 for 4 with 2 home runs as the Angels lost 10-5. So those are always funny on Twitter. But Sam, how are you feeling about Mike Trout and then I guess his his playing career, and maybe even the Angels, like how this affects them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it sucks. Like Mike Trout, like Logan said, like I am one of the people that thinks like Mike Trout is, you could argue, is the best player to ever play. Like
Oh
you
yeah,
can you can argue Barry Bonds. Like I have my own reservations on that with like, getting over the whole steroid use and all that. But like even before Barry Bonds started allegedly taking that stuff, like he was still a top tier player. Um, but definitely he's the best player in baseball right now. Well, he's always been like the top three, top five best player in baseball, like for the past, you know, 3 to 5 years. Definitely when he started coming up winning the MVPs, he was without a doubt the best player. Um, but yeah, he's just been getting injured so much, man. Like it's so painful to see. Like this dude is obviously, when healthy, like the best player in the sport. Like not even, I don't even think that's really a question. Like Mike Trout is the best player in Major League Baseball when healthy. So it just sucks to like hardly ever see him. And especially
yeah,
like Logan said, like playing on the Angels is so depressing because like they have been so bad, and the team like is just, they just don't know how to put together a good baseball team. Like
yeah,
it's so crazy. Like baseball is one of the very rare sports where you could have the best player in the sport and still be irrelevant. Like the Angels have been like the a laughing stock of the league because they have the best player in baseball and they consistently do nothing with it. With him, I'm not gonna with him. Um, but yeah, I mean the back injury, like it's obviously like not good news. We have to wait and see like what does this like entail for him, like how much physical limitations does this put on him. There's always the DH, like he could just be a full-time DH, which takes away from how good of a player he is because he's still good in the field relatively speaking. um yeah, it's just unfortunate, dude. Like I don't think it'll like he said, like I don't think it'll ruin his career. Like he's still gonna play, but like, dude, I would love to just see him become like put up like untouchable numbers because he is
yeah,
so freaking good.
yeah. No, basically, so I just looked it up. 162 game average. So basically, your season average. Barry Bonds, who obviously one of the best hitters of all time. He had 159. That was his 159 hits a year was his average. Trout's at 177. Barry Bonds is 298. This is batting average. Trout's 303. Barry Bonds' home run, he's like the home run king, is 41 home runs a season, and Trout's at 40. Like he's just one off. I mean, he's got more hits, more walks, everything. I mean, the dude is easily, I think, the best baseball player of all time, and no one knows because he's on the Angels. Like nobody knows at all, and it just sucks because just you can't touch his stats. It'd be like if LeBron, I guess, was on like the Pacers and they just never did anything. Like it just sucks. Like no one, if you're just an average baseball fan, you just don't realize how good he is, and you
Yeah,
never will. Like he's
Yeah.
never leaving out. Like you're never gonna know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like one stat that I look at outside of like, Logan read off kind of like a regular slash line of, hits and average and all that. I like to look at either OPS plus or WRC plus. OPS plus is on base plus slugging percentage, and then the plus basically means like it contextualizes it to where 100 is league average. If you're above 100, you're an above average hitter. If you're below 100, you're a below average hitter. WRC plus, weighted runs created plus, is essentially kind of like a different version of that. It kind of measures the same thing of like how good of an offensive player you are. Again, 100 being average. Um, Barry Bonds for his career had a 173 weighted runs created plus. Mike Trout at this point in his career has a 172 weighted runs created plus. So yeah, they are like neck and neck in my eyes.
My last thing, it always cracks me up. I never can remember the numbers, but I just looked at them. So obviously LeBron's like, I obviously think he's the best player ever, but one of the best players ever in the NBA, no matter how you look at it. And he's been for our generation. He's been like Mr. NBA. But that is Mike Trout. That is Mike Trout of baseball. And the funniest thing is LeBron has, and it's a little, but it just makes me laugh. LeBron has 129 million followers on Instagram. Mike Trout has 1.9 million. And he is literally LeBron James of Major League Baseball. And he has 129 million followers versus 1.9.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unreal.
Yeah.
It's just so sad. Like if he was a Yankee, like, oh man. I mean, honestly, if he was a Brave, if he was just anywhere. Anywhere.
He was a Philly.
Oh,
Well,
I think that whole like I've heard that so many times of like it's that just goes into a whole nother like rant about how how terrible Major League Baseball is like as an organization of like
terrible.
Like promoting its own product. Like
they have all the blackout games and everything.
Yeah,
they have no idea how to promote. Like you can't watch baseball games in Atlanta. You just can't. They're blacked out.
It's just
unreal.
It's so painful, and that's another talking point of like why people talk about baseball as such a dead sport, because nobody knows anybody in the league. You never hear about anybody in the league. Like Mike Trout is the best player in baseball. Like Bryce Harper, as much as like people don't like him, like I think he is the most entertaining player in baseball, and like nobody knows about them. Like if you just ask a random player on the street, like, hey, what do you think of Mike Trout? Like, what is he, like a fisherman or something? Like, what is who is he? Like,
he's the best to ever play the sport.
Yeah, and nobody knows, and it's so embarrassing as a baseball fan. Like, this is like the sport
and it's
that
their
I
own
love.
fault.
It's just
their
so
own fault.
Like we could have a whole podcast. We could have a whole podcast.
I could talk about that
but
forever.
Well, then we will
We
make
can
sure to
move
do
on.
that in a future episode. But right now we're going to talk about Jake Degram, who hasn't played since July 7th, 2021, because of a right shoulder stress fracture. Future Brave, apparently.
I hate that.
He's been doing some rehab starts and is on pace to potentially return to the majors very soon, which would put him being able to start against the Braves while they currently hold a 3-game lead. I'm going to ask Sam, as a unbiased party in this conversation, how he feels about DeGrom's return.
Well, I'm relatively biased because me and Logan can both agree. F the Mets.
F the Mets.
Fair.
But Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher in all of baseball, so
by far.
Obviously, the Mets getting him back would be absolutely devastating. I don't think the Phillies are going to win the division by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm just hoping for a wild card spot, and like if another team in our division gets like 10, 12, 15 games ahead of us, we're pretty much screwed at that point. So the Mets getting back to DeGrom, like, I don't know, everybody says the Mets will Met, so hopefully that'll happen. Obviously, I don't hope that he gets hurt again, because he is the best pitcher in baseball. Like, I obviously love to see that. Like, there was a game that I watched, like I think it was like a year or two ago, where DeGrom was pitching against us, the Phillies, in Philadelphia, and for literally the first like 6 innings, he threw like 90 to 95% of the pitches that he threw were fastballs, and we had no runs. He's
so good.
It was unbelievable. Like, I was literally sitting there watching. I'm like, I've literally never, like, all he's doing is throwing fastballs, and we can't get a hit. Like, how is this possible? Like, the dude is unreal. So obviously it's good for the sport, but like, as a division rival, like, I hope it doesn't last.
Yeah. Logan, since he'll be returning in time for that series, and will probably impact it
as of now.
It's a fair point. How are you feeling about potentially having to face him? And then also, I think I'm more interested in hearing about him potentially suiting up for the Braves when?
Yeah. It sucks. But it's also like for the same reasons me and Sam were just talking about with Mike Trout. Like it also makes me happy because like you're also getting the best pitcher in baseball back, and like that's fun to watch. Like he is our rival, but I don't wish any injuries on him or any bad ill. Like I would never want Trout to be hurt, but it's fun to watch both of them. But for the division race, it does suck. But we're only 3 games back, and I just looked at it. I think we have a 7 game lead over. Actually, no offense, Sam. It is over the Phillies. We have a 7 game lead over like the team just outside of the wild card. So I'm feeling kind of good about that. Obviously, I'd love to win the division, but my mindset has kind of changed. That it'd be kind of fun to like let the Mets win the division and then like we beat them in the playoffs like that, which would be hilarious. Um, but I mean, like Sam said, I mean, I feel like the Mets are going to Mets at some point. Getting Jacob Degram definitely doesn't help that. But as far as the Braves, so he grew up a Braves fan. And Buster,
Shut
no,
up.
he
I know he
said that.
did, but
Oh,
like, come on.
And then I'm sure Sam saw it, but Buster only tweeted that there's a lot of speculation around the league that he's going to opt out of his Mets contract this year, and we like are apparently like the actual favorites to sign him. According to like a legit source. I mean, whether you like him or not, like it's not some like Braves fans 334 didn't tweet it. Like Buster only tweeted. So like, which I don't know how I feel about because obviously I'd love to have the best pitcher in baseball, but I don't want to like hand him the bag to pitch in 3 games in April and then miss the rest of the season. So I don't know how. Now, if you're getting a healthy Jacob Degrom, I'd just give him a blank check. I don't care what we pay him, but I don't really know how I feel about it, but apparently, like the actual speculation around the league is we are the favorites to sign him if he does opt out. It just kind of depends on what he does November, December, if he does opt out or not, which he will when the Mets crumble and don't do anything like they always do. So he will be a Brave. He will be our opening day starter next year. You heard it here first.
Dude,
All right, we love.
He won't be.
Well, we love the hypotheticals either way. That's what we do here on this podcast. But the MLB trade deadline is coming up on August 2nd. We'll have another episode after that to kind of recap what happened. But we've already seen a few deals go down, starting with Andrew Benintendi being traded to the Yankees for 3 minor league pitching prospects. Logan, we'll start with you. How are you feeling about this trade?
Yeah, it sucks. Just because it's the Yankees. Like Andrew's Benintendi's so good. I mean, I don't know how much it puts them over the top because they're already over the top. They didn't really need him. What makes me the most nervous about all this is now they don't need Joey Gallo, who was the guy who had been playing outfield for them, who's just been like really bad this year. And I saw today that apparently we're like the favorites to trade for him now, like as the Braves, which makes me a little nervous. I mean, he had some decent time out with the Rangers. I think he does need a change of scenery, but as soon as I saw, like late last night, I think it was that he signed with the Yankees, it immediately made me nervous that Gallo was going to be traded, and we need another outfielder. So that makes me nervous. But as far as the trade, it sucks. It makes them that much better. Don't tell Jake Smith they're not winning the World Series. They just can't. Like the Mets and the Yankees literally can't. Something will happen. They'll forget how to pitch or something. But that was a good start to the trade deadline because the next couple of days are about to be crazy. That was really the start of it. But I also saw that it was Luis Castillo and him were like on our top list for the Braves. So I was also just a little bummed out too that we didn't get them either.
Dude, the Braves are in on everybody.
Go for
also, hey, you heard it here first. Braves in on everybody.
I was just making a joke. No, you can.
No, man. I just wanted to hear your thoughts. Like I wanted to hear other thoughts that my friend Jake Smith may want to hear.
I mean, I mean, getting Benintendi is good for them. I mean, he's had a really good year this year. Like I talked about.
He was an all-star, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, Salvador Perez wasn't he? I don't
New York
imagine.
Yankees acquire all-star outfielder. Yeah, he was an all-star.
So yeah, but yeah, he's having a good year. Like I talked about with WRC plus, it's just a way to contextualize how good of an offensive player you are. This season, he's WRC plus is 126, so it's pretty fairly above league average. So I think it's a good pickup by them. Obviously, they needed somebody better than Joey Gallo who could actually hit the baseball. I mean, yeah, Yankees just keep adding talent. I will say the players that um, the Royals got back in return, um, like these baseball deals are kind of like, especially towards the trade deadline, like making like smaller level moves, some, like kind of like this, like the players that you're going to be getting back in return, like they're a lot of times they're going to be like no name kind of guys. Um, so the Royals, like they got three pitchers in the lower minors. Two of them are lefties. One is a righty. The righty projects to be um, what I heard is that's like he was the top player in the package from a couple of sources. Um, I've also like read scouting evals and like I've heard different things. So basically, they just got like a couple guys that could develop into bullpen pieces, and one guy that could be uh, maybe a spot starter, back into the rotation kind of guy. So that's the kind of deals you're going to get with these trade deadlines, guys on the last years of their contract. Like you're going to get some quote unquote slapdick prospects. Um, but yeah, I love the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also hard to go like so in depth with it. Like I hate to go back to the Braves, but like we were so bad. Like baseball is just. I'm saying on the sit. Baseball is just a weird sport. Like you don't know. You just can't know how any of these trades are going to play out. I mean, we weren't even 500 till August, and then we just absolutely dominated the playoffs. Like we were the best team by far. And I mean, we were so bad for so long. So these trade. I mean, obviously we had one of the best trade deadlines in a long time, but it's just it should be good. You just don't know. Baseball's the Yankees could wake up tomorrow and lose 15 in a row, and I mean, yeah, it'd be surprising, but also everybody would just be like, "Yeah, baseball." You just don't know. It's just weird, but it's also so fun because you're probably gonna have. I mean, I know we're gonna get into it, but you might have some big name players traded all over the league. Like it's gonna be a fun week.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that after we talk about a few more deals that went down. The Mets got Daniel Vogelbach, I believe that's how you say it, for rookie reliever Colin Holderman. Sam, what are the Mets getting in Vogelbach?
Uh, they're getting a great locker room guy. The dude is so funny. He's a character. Like everything that I've heard about him is everybody loves him around the league. Like, um, but like as a baseball player, they're getting a guy who is not gonna hit the ball very often, but when he does, he's gonna hit it extremely hard. So that kind of then translates to having a higher OPS plus, WRC plus. Like his WRC plus right now this season is at a 120. Um, so again, like I said, like above average offensive player. Um, it was just kind of questionable, like from what I heard, like Holderman, he's a rookie, so if people don't know baseball, you have players for a pretty long amount of time. Like they go through standard contract extensions. Like they increase incrementally for the first 3 years of service that you put in, and then arbitration starts hitting to where it increases more significantly. But it's again based on your level of play compared to everybody else. Um, so that's right there. That's 6 years of team control until a player is actually eligible for free agency. Um, so when you are trading away a rookie or even somebody younger, like you're trading away an asset like that you were expected to have for like 5 6 years, versus like some of these other guys like are getting traded, like Andrew Benintendi, Daniel Vogelbach, like they signed 1 year deals. So this is it, like with their team. Like once this season is over, they'll be on the free agencies. So um, Holderman was having a good season, not pitching in high leverage situations, but still a rookie, still putting up some decent numbers. And, you know, pitching is kind of what you look for. So having a good bullpen arm in any situation is typically a plus. Having him uh, be on his rookie deal and like being able to um, hold on to him for that long is another plus. But the Mets are trying to go all in on their offense. I just don't think it was like I think it's a fine deal, but I don't think it's moves the needle for the Mets. Um, being like I'm literally being unbiased here. Like I don't think this is like I'm not
Don't be
looking at the
biased.
Mets. I'm not being at the looking at the Mets now as like, oh crap, like they got a pretty good lefty bat now that I have to worry about. Like, I mean, it is what it is. Like, sure he's a good offensive player, like a little bit better than average, but it's not like you got Juan Soto.
Yeah.
So
Logan, anything to add in about what the Mets got and if it makes you really scared?
I don't have much to add. It doesn't make me scared at all. The way I look at it is there's like 3 tiers. You bat 300, you're in the MVP conversation. And then it goes down to 250, and you just want to be on the right side of that. And he's on the wrong side of that. He's batting 228 this year, so I couldn't be worried less. And then really, I guess the other thing is once you're below 200, you might lose your job. But he's on the wrong side of 250 for me to even like remotely care about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's batting 228. It does absolutely nothing.
like I don't know. For me, like I look at more of like the advanced stats, like his WOBA, his weighted on base average is at 340, and Andrew Benintendi's I believe is at like 345. So like they are, and like I talked about earlier with Andrew Benintendi, like his WRC plus is like around 125. Like they are pretty, they're putting a pretty similar offensive production. So that's why I hesitate to just solely look at like average or how many hits does he have, or
He's got 104 more at bats.
who, Vogelbach?
Andrew.
Oh, I mean, but still, like,
But
it's. I mean, at this point, players have like 300 at bats, so it's
no,
not
that's
it's
fair.
not too much of a discrepancy
There's
there. But like the like I talked about, like the production is pretty similar. So I mean, I don't think Vogelbach, like the fact that he's hitting now like in the 230s isn't like, some players just do that. Like some players just hit for lower averages, but they make up for it in other ways. Like Jorge Soler last season, like he might not hit the ball very often, but when he does, he hits it hard, or he gets on base from walks and other things like that. Like there's other ways to impact the game than just getting like a single or a double to get up your average. So
no, for sure. You made me look at my favorite stat though, and I feel more confident that I'm not worried about it because Andrew has a 2.4 WAR, which I was surprised was that low. I figured it might be a little higher, even though that is good. And Daniels is 0.6, so
yeah,
he does. He
war
literally he does
also
nothing.
it takes into account fielding and other things like base running and things like that. So
The things he doesn't do.
yeah, yeah. Daniel Vogelbach is a
That's my
solidified,
point.
like he is 100% a DH. So like they
He
are
is.
getting,
That's fair.
all they're getting is a bat.
True.
Like bats are good. Like
They are good.
the more bats, the
You're not
better.
wrong.
But like all he is a DH. So I
And
mean
Soler was
that's
our DH, and he helped us win. So that is fair. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Well, so
I
then
won't
the
argue.
last trade that's already happened is Carlos Santana to the Mariners for 2 pitching prospects. Logan, I'll let you start on this one. What are kind of your thoughts on this deal?
I didn't have much on it. I honestly, being honest, I didn't really realize that happened. I think Sam might have said the same thing.
Yeah.
Until you put it in the topic list.
I'm the
But I
baseball
mean, I like
insider
the
of our
Mariners.
friend group, so
Yeah, clearly.
yeah.
I like the Mariners though. They're fun. I mean, I'm all for them being better. He's another player that I don't think. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I don't think he's gonna, you know, turn the needle for them and make them World Series contenders or favorites at least. But I think he played on the Mariners before. Is that right,
yeah.
Sam?
This is actually the second time that he's been traded to the
Okay.
Mariners.
I thought I had remembered him playing on them before. But they're just another team too that like I just couldn't tell you much about the Mariners at all. I mean, I know they're good. They've had J-Rod who almost just won the home run derby, but they're just another weird team that it's just baseball. If you're not the Yankees or the Mets fan, people don't know anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they've got some guys that have been getting hurt recently, like Ty France has missed some time, Mitch Haniger, Kyle Lewis, Evan White, their first baseman, who can give them, he can put up some Gold Glove production at first base on the defensive side. So they're missing some good talent. And not only so I think like one of the bigger things for Carlos Santana, why they added him was, I mean, probably one for familiarity with him, giving that they traded for him before, and then two, like he's probably also a very good veteran presence and a locker room guy. And when you have some of the younger guys that they're bringing up, like Kyle Lewis, Jared Kelnick, J-Rod, like it's always good to have some of those veteran presences in the locker room. So I'm sure that was another big thing. But yeah, Carlos Santana, he kind of started off the season slow. I believe he started in Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken, this year. But he's come alive. Well, he's not come alive, but he's turned it around relatively over the last month or so, maybe last 2 months. I think this is another one of those trade deadline pieces where nobody's really gonna like talk about it. I think it's it's a minor move. Like the players that the Royals got back were like, again, like nobody's really gonna know who they are. Very minor move, but if it helps the Mariners behind the scenes, like go for it.
Yeah, they're fighting for a playoff spot too, so it doesn't hurt. His WAR is higher than Daniel Vogelbach, so that proves my point too that he stinks.
He's a better defensive first baseman. Like he probably actually plays the field.
Yeah.
So all right, well, we're gonna move on to a few rumors as we kind of wrap this up, but the first one before we hit on the major ones that I know everybody's dying to hear our opinions on, we're going to talk about the Red Sox. There was a report that came out that actually the Red Sox said they don't intend to trade Xander Bogaerts or Rafael Devers, despite them now being behind my Orioles in the division standings.
Yeah, they've been playing bad.
So what do we think about them not wanting to trade those guys, Logan?
I don't know. Devers is one of my favorite baseball players, and I just hope. I'm looking it up now. My biggest question is like when their contracts are up, because as we'll get into with Ohtani and Trout, like if it's clear they're not going to re-sign, like they need to trade him to get something for him. But they're still fighting for a playoff spot. I think Boston's still a playoff team. I mean, they were one game, I believe, or it was game 6 they lost in the ALCS, so they were like 2 wins away from making the World Series last year. But I don't think they're going to trade either one of them. If I'm in their shoes, I wouldn't. I would just be doing anything I could to re-sign them. But I think Bogart's saying, I think, isn't he a free agent after this year?
No, so Bogarts is
for one more year.
He back in I was 2019 or 2020. He signed a 6-year, 120 deal. So he's locked up until 2027 at this point. So yeah, they have no incentive to really move him unless they're like actually god awful. And then Devers is coming up on his 3rd arbitration year. So next year will be his last arbitration, and then he will hit free agency. So if they do like totally bottom out next year and like there just seems like there's no hope for this, they could look to move him. But I mean, you got to get a massive haul for Devers. Like the dude is legit.
Yeah. Well, they're only 4 games out of the last wild card spot, so maybe their season's not fully over, though there are a few teams in between them and that wild card spot, but they seem like they're going to go for it. But we're going to hear from our experts about where they think that Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani are going to end up. Sam, we'll start with you, and we will start with Soto.
I mean, I think it's like really interesting to talk about because like I talked about earlier, like I think Mike Trout is still like when healthy the best player in baseball. Like Juan Soto at this point is like very close behind him. Like he is, in my opinion, like given age and everything like that, like he is one of the best hitters I've ever seen in my life. Like he knows the strike zone. Like when he came up, I remember this clearly. Like when he came up into the league, into the majors, he was asked something along the lines of like, how are you going to adjust to like, major league umpires and things like that, or like, strike zones and whatever. And he kind of answered like, I mean, like it's a good thing for me. Like major league umpires understand the strike zone better than minor league umpires do. So like, I view it as a good thing. I'm like, this dude knows the strike zone. So, and you can tell, like, it's been evident. Like, he's led the league in on base percentage, like the majority of the time that he's been in the league. So, um, he is probably the biggest name that, like, if somebody's going to trade for him, like, you have to give up like at least 3 of the top 5 of your prospects, like, and then more. Like, you have got to give up so much, which puts the Nationals in a great, it puts them in a great position if they actually do like go forward and trade him. Um, it's also kind of like the conundrum of like Nolan Arenado got traded a few years ago, and like everybody was kind of like how can somebody trade for Nolan Arenado? Like, how are you going to get the package to make it justifiable? Like, I kind of feel like the same way about Juan Soto. Like, is there a prospect or even like MLB package of guys that you can offer that makes it like relatively like comparable? Like, I don't know. Like, Juan Soto is an anomaly of anomalies. Like, the dude is amazing. So if I was Washington, like, unbiased, because I obviously want him out of our division so I never have to face him again. But like, dude, you got to try. Like, you have to just not trade him, work it out for the next few months, go into the off season, and just like fully commit to give him what he wants, because like he will carry your team. So
Yeah. What team do you think he'll be carrying, Sam?
everything that I've heard is the Padres are the favorites right now. There was a report before we started that talks have intensified. The trade deadline is coming up in the next few days. So, I mean, if it's the Padres, like, you're probably talking like CJ Abrams is in there, Mackenzie Gore's going to be in there, probably either Robert Hassel or Jackson Merrill, and all 3 of those guys, like I mentioned, are within like the top 5 of their prospects, all like extremely talented, will be future either MLB All Stars or MLB regulars, like, without a doubt. And then like, you're not gonna just leave with those 3. Like, there's gonna be more players that's gonna get added on. So I think they have the farm system to do it. Um, and the Padres are known to go all in when they want a guy. So I just don't know, like, dude, like, how can you trade Juan Soto? Like, how?
Yeah, no, for sure. Logan, anything to add in about Soto, or do you just want to hit Shohei
Yeah,
Ohtani?
no, I've got just a little bit on
Yeah,
Soto. He's he's a weird player. I disagree with Sam in the fact like he might be a top 10 baseball player, maybe. He is by far the best hitter in the league. I agree with Sam there. He's really bad at base running, really bad in the field. So StatCast's defensive metric as of 3 weeks ago had him as the worst right fielder in all of Major League Baseball. He he's not he can't be one of the best players in baseball. He just can't be. I mean, he does one thing. He's not a 5-tool player. But he's such a weird player because on top of that, if I had to take one dude to go up to the plate and like get in that bat, it's him. He's the best hitter in baseball, which does make it super, super hard to trade him. Like, I don't know how you value him because I do think he is the best hitter in baseball. He's just really bad in the field and he's really bad at base running. And I agree with Sam. Like, how do you trade him? I think they're gonna have to. I don't think he wants to be there. He recognizes the Nationals are terrible. They got hot at the right time and he won a World Series when it was his first or second year, I believe. Like, he's gotten everything he can get from out of there. They're not going to be good. They're showing no signs of being good. So I think he also just, I mean, he's turned down 2-3 contract offers from them. Like, clearly it's him that wants out. So they're going to have to trade him. But again, it's just weird because, I mean, dude can hit lights out, but you do not want him playing right field for you. And you don't want him running on the bases either. But you also don't want anybody, you don't want to pitch against him either. Like, he's just a weird player. But I do think the Padres are more than likely where he would end up because I feel like it's kind of now or never for them. They've been a young, fun team. I mean, I know Tatis has been out for a while, but he's someone that if they got him, like it could push them over the edge for sure, just because of how good of a hitter he is. And if you paired him with Tatis getting healthy, like that would be fun. I'm in the same shoes as Sam, that I want him out of our division. And I love Tatis. Like it'd be so fun to see them play together out in San Diego. So as long as he's not a Yankee or a Met, I don't really care where he goes. And obviously, besides the Braves, if I could pick a team, it'd actually probably be the Padres, just because they're so fun. And I know Sam does not like my maybe top 10 comment or defensive comment. So I'm sorry to make you mad, Sam, but he's not a good right fielder.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
Worst
overblown.
in the
Like,
league according to Statcast.
yeah, I'll definitely say like he's not known for his fielding. Like, I think everybody
Yeah,
at this point
that's just
knows
why he
that.
can't be a top player in the league, because there's players that can't hit and field, and he can't.
I would still definitely like put him in the top 10. Definitely in the
Yeah,
top 10.
he could be top 10.
For sure. Yeah, but
Not behind Mike Trout, though.
the
Not like
base
not right behind Mike Trout.
the base running thing, and I mean that's definitely like I've never evaluated a guy and been like, yeah, but he's not that great on the base paths. Like, dude, I could not care less. Like, if you're hitting home runs, like, guess what? You don't have to be on the base paths because you just get to walk around them. So,
Correct, but in the postseason, when you get sent home and it matters, and it's a tie ball game, you got to be able to do stuff like that, and that's what makes me the most nervous for him, because gosh, I'd be pissed if yeah, cool, he gets hit, but then he gets thrown out rounding the base to third or something, and you get sent home because of that. Obviously, that's an extreme situation, but like you
yeah,
can't say that stuff doesn't matter. Like
I mean,
it does matter.
that could also play into like your third base coach, like who's telling him to go.
Hey,
So I mean, there's a lot of different
Yeah,
things that play into that,
but it
but
does matter.
it doesn't really
All
play
right.
into my evaluation.
Well,
That's
we
fair.
will move on to the other hot name on that could be dealt before the trade deadline, Shohei Ohtani. Logan, I'll start with you this time. Where do you think he could end up? What would he bring to a team?
He'd bring a lot. I'm interested to see if Sam will agree or disagree with me, but I don't think he's going to get traded. I actually really think Soto is. I don't think there's any way they trade Ohtani. I mean, he's another one that would just be so hard, like, to trade. I mean, not only is he one of the best hitters in the league, but he's also one of the best pitchers. Like, we have never seen anything like that. It makes me mad. People call him a modern day Babe Ruth, but like Babe Ruth is terrible. Babe Ruth would maybe play single A ball nowadays. Like he is. No, seriously. Like,
we'll save that for
me,
another
like,
podcast. We'll save that for another podcast.
Yeah, I was like,
we'll
what?
dissect the early 1900s baseball and just decide whether guys were good. But for now,
I mean, I can keep just saying, watch one video of Babe Ruth swing, you'll know. But I'm trying to see his pitching stats, because I know his hitting stats are there. I was trying to see what his ERA is, but I can't find it. But I don't think they'll trade him. He's got this year and next year on his contract. So if you're trading for him, it's not like you're just trading. It's not a trade deadline move to get like a dude to try to win this year. You'd have him all of next year, which makes it tough. Now, if you're trading for him under the assumption that you then know he's going to sign an extension, like, that's a little bit different. But I don't know. The Angels are weird. I want them to keep him, and I want them to go all in with him and Trout because they're fun together. But I mean, we've watched them the last couple of years, and it doesn't work. But I don't think they're going to move him, and that might just be because I haven't seen a lot of buzz from it, and I've seen more buzz about Soto. Maybe the Angels are wanting to see what Soto goes for first, then kind of decide to do after that. But I don't think they're going to trade him.
Sam, what do you think? Do you think the Angels, after holding on to Mike Trout, if they kind of let some of this generational talent go, or do you think they just kind of hoard it?
No, they definitely have to hold on to him. Like,
Yeah.
in terms of just contract, he has another year of arbitration. So, I mean, there's no need to trade him now. If they do actually want to trade him, they can go ahead and trade him next year because that way they still have him for another year. But like, dude, he's one of the best hitters, also one of the best pitchers. Like Logan said, we've never really seen anything like this. So why are you so determined? Like, and this could just be me putting like words into their mouths, or like, actually like buying into these reports that like he could be moved, but like why, dude? Like, just have him and let him be good. You have Mike Trout, you have Shohei, you have, I mean, granted Rendon hasn't been the healthiest, but if he comes back to health and can play decently well, you have Anthony Rendon in that lineup. Brandon Marsh is there. Like you have some pieces. Who's the pitcher? Reed Detmers. Like you have some pieces that you can build on. Like I don't know what's going on in Los Angeles that it hasn't like clicked. But like it's just so like mind-boggling like why the Angels like want to be so good with these players and then they're just like, oh, it's not working out the way we thought it would, so let's just get rid of them. I'm like, what are you freaking doing? Like trade for more players, like add, don't just subtract and like just be like just accept defeat. Like try, add players. You have Mike Trout, you have Shohei Ohtani, like you should be in the playoff conversation every year. But
Yeah.
you are the Angels. So
Well, we will see if these trades happen along with other trades, and we'll be back on August 3rd for another MLB podcast to recap all the trade deadline action. And we will be joined, and I think it'll be his first time on the podcast, by Mitch Fuller. So we'll be adding in some extra analysis, but that's going to do it for episode 10 of the Hypothetically Speaking podcast. Everyone, thanks for listening. And fellows, thank you all for joining me.
thank you.
Yes, sir.